Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Exchange Arena, where today we're going to talk a little bit about the history of how this building actually got built. Today I'm joined by Jerry Thomas and Dave Lundeen, who were instrumental people in helping to get the facility built back in the 80s. And so, gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for taking some time to share your stories and your experience getting this building constructed. Let's start way back. What first got each of you interested in hockey?
I guess I was a hockey player as a kid, and when my son found it interesting when we moved to town in the 74, as a 5-year-old, I started coaching 5-year-old hockey and moved on up with him and his boys in the group all the way till they were bantams, and then high school took over as freshmen in high school. And so that's how we got going. And the first 5 years, basically, were outside. We lost more games due to warm ice, too cold, all that sort of thing.
Soft
we were either
ice.
playing on the west side. There was a nice rink over there, and there was a rink on the north side. And so between the two of them, we would Zamboni, we would clear the ice. The Zamboni was kind of interesting. There was a fellow named Dr. Peterson, a veterinarian in town, who made a Zamboni homemade. And what we did, it was a big tank of water.
Yeah.
It was I suppose, a 300-gallon tank of steel tank. He tipped it on its side and ran a wire and a hose out the back with a cloth on the back so it dragged behind it, and then it was on a trailer. And so we pulled it. I pulled it with I had a little Skylark Buick at the time, and I would pull that onto the rink at the west side and pull that on and go back and turn the water tap on, and then drive slowly around with that rug behind with dropping some water. And that was our Zamboni back in the day. But we lost so many games and so much too cold, weather was just extreme. So when we finally got a chance to get this building going, it was really something really special.
That original Zamboni that you had, did you submit that then to a museum?
We should have. I don't remember what happened to it, but it was unique.
Well, what about the engine to that Zamboni? What happened to that?
Yeah, that was my Buick, so that got traded. But it was interesting. Yeah, we used to go to the plant on the west side. What's the plant that has the cheese plant over there? What's it called?
Oh, Anderson Custom.
Yeah, right there right by SA. Well, they would donate the water. So we could pull in there with the Zamboni, fill that tank, and pull out of there and go over to the west side rink and lay it out. And they give us warm water, so it was a way to go. Yeah.
Well, that's a great story.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's some really good ingenuity there.
Yeah, that was something.
So, how about for you, Jerry? What was your start in hockey?
Well, I think same way as Dave's son, Chad, Chris. Both of those were the same age, and they played hockey in their early years, and when they're 5 years old, I think Chris might have started a little later than that. But that's kind of where we got into the interest of building the facility, because, to tell you the truth, going out at midnight and flooding the ice and getting some ice down was not fun, especially in below zero weather.
Yeah.
So we said we got to try to figure out to get an indoor arena for these guys. So that's kind of how we got started on the interest. So
you mentioned that you played your games outside at the rink on the west side and the rink on the north side.
Yep.
When you went to play other teams, how many of those teams were playing indoors at that time?
At that time, none.
none.
We had none.
No.
We had none. We
It's
would.
all ice,
It was
outside ice, yeah.
all outside ice. Yeah, not until about the time we got our arena in '89. Other towns started getting those same kinds of facilities, and a couple of them were frozen, just a roof over ice, like we started with. No artificial ice, just regular cold ice, and due to the weather, and that's the way they started. Long Prairie, Wadena, those kinds of towns, and so we had very, very, very few like they had the artificial ice, like Brainerd did.
There obviously was a committee of people that got together, and you had to start with some fundraising and doing, because the money just didn't grow on trees back in those days either. So,
Right.
So who was really involved besides the two of you in that initial push to get an arena going?
I would say that board that's on the rock downstairs down there, that poster down there, those 5, 6 guys, they headed it up. Jerry was our treasurer, and I wasn't involved in that on that board, but I was manual labor and coaching and doing that sort of thing behind the scene. It was interesting. We would get one out of town ice time a year. We could afford from 6 to 7 in the morning. We were in Brainerd, and they had the arena, and so we would go as a bantam, squirt, peewees, whatever, one time a year and get one hour of ice time. And it's just amazing what the kids get now in comparison to what we had at that time. My son says from his time he played with me as a 5-year-old till he finished in college playing hockey, his granddaughter at 9 years old has had more ice time now than he did through that whole thing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
So
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about that fundraising effort. How much money, you mentioned, I think you said you had to raise about $800,000.
Correct.
How long did that process take to raise that funds, and what were some of the things that you tried to do to get that money raised?
Actually, I think it only took us about a year and a half to raise that money.
Wow.
Basically, we took a lot of those board of directors that were with us in committees, and we would call on individuals, call on businesses, and whether we got $50, a donation, or $100 or $10,000, that's whatever the community would donate. And then along with that, the Exchange Club, basically at the end of the fundraiser, and we had raised probably about $250,000 from the community, individually. And the Exchange Club came in, and because they were in gaming, they had the funds to do it, so they kicked in a large amount of money to get the thing started. So we did reach our goal at about $850,000, and from there, that's when we started the project.
Do you have an idea of how much the building cost when you originally built it? Was it more than the $850,000?
No, I think we stayed pretty much on budget. I think Dave and I were kind of spearheading to make sure that we stayed on budget, because we couldn't afford to add any more. We didn't want to go back to the community and ask for more money. So, but a lot of the items were donated, and labor was donated. So Camp Ripley came in and did all the groundwork for us with their equipment. They had their engineering department, and I don't think there's a crack in that concrete right now because of the preparation of the footings that they put in. So
that's incredible. And so you mentioned a lot of volunteer labor hours. Who was responsible for coordinating all of that labor work getting done then?
I'd say Hal Sunval was our contractor in charge, donated all times, and the rest of us were just dads. I mean, I had to try to learn. The walls in here are all steel, welded. There isn't a screw anywhere. It's all welded, and so here we are by the hour trying to learn how to weld those pieces into place. And so there are a lot of places here that are early Dave that might have a little kink in it here and there. So but it got finished, and I remember we'd worked all day, come in and worked here till midnight, and close her down and head back and do it again tomorrow, the next day.
So you were able to open the arena in 1989.
That was without ice. This building was here, and the boards were homemade. The high schoolers and dads were out at, I believe it was Bob Anderson's had a big shop, and so they were out. We were making boards, And I think Jerry Erickson was kind of in charge of that contract, that construction portion, and headed all us. So I remember taking the boys out and taking them out to that shop, and they'd work many hours just putting boards together. And we got boards up. The first boards, we had no glass. It was just a wire screen for a little bit. And then we moved to glass. And then the second year we had the arena, we got the ice in, and we hired a crew to come in and head up the refrigeration portion.
Sure.
And but boys, we were out laying pipe with dads and boys, all part of it. So interesting.
And so your kids actually learned a lot of valuable skills.
Oh, big
through
time,
this
big
whole
time.
Absolutely, yes.
Big
Not
time.
only- but all the hockey players.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
That was a highlight when the night we got to drop a puck out here on the we had frozen ice, we had the cold weather ice, and but we as a Bantam, my team got to play the prelim to the high school game that night, and that was the first, and it was a real highlight, I'll tell you.
So let's talk a little bit about that first game. You mentioned it was a Bantam game that preceded the high school game. I'm sure there was a lot of excitement, in not only for the boys that were going to be playing that night, but for you dads and,
Oh, it
and
was
everybody involved.
it was the highlight of my years, I'll tell
Yes.
you.
Same
To see
here.
that puck dropped, and then we beat Long Prairie that night. I remember that, and it was fun. We had Chris and Kurt Sandman and Ched and boys, the Brisk boys, and it was a fun. Mock boys, Tom Mock,
Okay.
and those guys. We had a good time.
What were some of those early challenges with the arena then that you had? I mean,
Well,
things
I would say the biggest thing was we rented a Zamboni the first few times. We had that. You remember that old Volkswagen engine we had on that first? And
There's a story behind that, but I won't share that one.
Jerry, yeah, we were testing it out, and it wasn't running quite right. And Jerry, we had it over here, and it was a backup little shop on this end of the arena, and they were in there working on it. And he said, "Well, let's just take this off. I don't think we need that." He said, "Take that off right there." He drove it out on the ice, and we about 3 rounds on it, and it started smoking. And, and we had taken off a pipe or a belt that was running some kind of a coolant on that engine, and it was a growing pain for all of us.
We fried that one up, so we had to get a different Zamboni.
Did you go back to the Buick?
No,
No, I don't think we
no.
ever used that in here. We had the regular Zambonis. Once we got inside, we had a
Actually-
regular Zamboni.
Actually, I think the school shop repaired the Zamboni and got it running for us.
They
you
did.
know, so.
They did. That's right.
Yeah.
They did.
Wow.
But then then eventually we bought a new one. We had funds. We were in the hockey association was in gaming, so we had annual revenues to be able to run the arena, plus buy some equipment if we needed to.
Just lots of so much history that went into just building this, and so much effort and work.
It was many hours and days. But it was the volunteer, like the sheetrock was all volunteered, and the overseeing of the construction, all volunteered. You know, and these were real, talented and professional gentlemen,
Yeah.
and just donated their time and their effort, and it was fun.
Yeah, actually, all the sheetrock was donated by Ralph Lohr. He was in the lumber business,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he donated every sheet of sheetrock that you see in this building.
Wow.
So, yeah, there were some
Yeah.
major donations of whatever we needed. Somebody would kick in and donated whatever parts we needed. So, yeah.
And that's really neat to see the community coming together around a project like that. too.
It was really, yeah, it was a real unique thing.
I'm sure there must have probably been a few games though that you had to go back outside for, even after you had this arena. Wouldn't some-
I don't
maybe-
recall. We had a few practices outside. I recall that.
Yeah.
And but most of the time we stayed inside. We got the games in here, and we lost. I don't think once we had that artificial ice, it was covered. But the cold weather ice that first year, I think we had those most of the time. We were able to hold those and stay with a warmer weather and get some, be able to skate on ice that was warm but not unplayable.
You have to go back outside to play some some road games or anything like that, or?
Yes. Oh
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. That first year, that Bantam year. Yep. Yep. And maybe even at that time, I don't recall if the high school was playing some outside ones on the road also, but we were awful glad to have ours.
I'm sure you were.
Dave, you need to share the story about the Moore, Moore
The Mora game.
game.
Oh, that was the boys we were I think they were juniors and seniors at that time, and we made it to the section finals at the Hippodrome in St. Paul,
Yep.
right at the arena, and we played Mora, and we got to it was the semifinal game, and we got behind 10-2
Yes.
after 2 periods, with a boy in the penalty box. We came out, and I remember we were just dying, dads here in the stands. How could we get back that far? Crazy deal. And we ended up turning that game around, and we won it. And just amazing, just amazing. In the third period, so we had enough goals. We won it 12-8, and or 12-10, I should say. And it was amazing. So we've tried to get that film of that game. We've never been able to find it. The Mora people absolutely refused to donate. We didn't have the filming at that time, and so it was. But that was a highlight for us. We came back and then we lost the next night to Cleveland, or to the team from St. Cloud, Cathedral.
Cathedral, yes.
They beat us 6-5.
Okay.
Well, that was a good year. That was John Majurley was the coach at that time,
Okay.
but the boys, that was a good year and a good time.
So in the third period, you were also placed into running time because you were down.
Exactly.
By more than
Exactly.
6
Yeah. No,
goals.
it was a miracle. We were just dying in the stands, and Gloria, I remember Gloria, Jerry's wife, said, "Oh, if they can score that many, we can score that many too." And no, right. Yeah, we're going to score that many. We did. It was amazing.
I think my son scored 5 goals.
I think he had 5 goals that night.
period.
Yep.
And Chad scored 2 or 3.
Yep. And it was just
Yeah,
crazy.
it
It
was
was crazy.
We couldn't get him out of the locker room after the game.
Is there anything else about the construction of the arena that you think is worthy of?
I just recall the hours after hours of donated up on scaffolding out here, putting sheetrock on the walls and insulating, and all that was all donated dads, and that was a big portion of it, and really a big project, and to get it done, and then to remember the first night we had the rink ready to go, the boys Jerry Thomas and Jerry Erickson were over here in the men's shop across the street, across the aisle, welding and putting together a frame. So that was our last project, and they brought it over, and we were just before game time. They were hooking the actual netting onto it, and so we were homemade net the first game out, and since then we've come quite a ways.
Yeah.
But to me, it was an honor to build this facility for the kids. I mean, just look what's been happening over the years. You know, gotten to state tournaments a few times. You know, I think had we not done this, we may not have a hockey program. You know, but it was a great honor and a privilege to add this facility to the community.
Yeah. Oh no, it's fun. It's fun to sit here and listen to you guys tell the story of the building and how it came to be. And thank you both for coming in and spending some time with me talking about that.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
And sharing, and hopefully this building can provide a lot of joy for kids for years and years to come.
It already has. Yes, it already has.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, both.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.